So, Minnesota. Okay, let's do this. Shouldn't be too hard. So I went ahead, as always, get right into the topographic maps, and I found two different ones. And I'm pretty sure that these maps are made by the same people because they are generally the same quality and have the same general look to them that you only see with these maps. So I go ahead, I get them downloaded, and I get them transferred over from GIF to PNG. That way I'm working with the same file format throughout the entire thing. Now, I go ahead, get it thrown into Krita, and let's get started. First off, I'm going to get rid of all of this extra gunk on the bottom, because we don't need the key, we don't need the name map, because if we do that, then we're going to end up having, you know, an island that is just the label. That's not going to look good. Then I go around, I clean up all of the shadow on the map, so it's just the landmass itself with the topographic map. And just like how I did the Texas one, I'm going to be using two different maps. That way we have a more accurate result by the end of this. So, after going ahead, clean up all of that shadow, I go ahead, fill it in, fill in all the little areas that I missed initially, and I will go ahead and move on to the next step, which is going ahead and grayscaling everything. Besides that, I'm also going to check to see if inverting the color will also work. I mess around with the settings a bit, just so I can get a better result overall. Again, you want the highest points to be really white, and you want the ocean to be pitch black, or any area where there's going to be water. So, after going ahead and messing around a bit, I switch it over into our color picker, and I get to changing all of the water into as black as possible. And you might be wondering, well, you have the other map for the water as well. Why are you messing around here? The reason why I'm doing that is because on the Texas map, I noticed later on that it was going ahead and you could see errors in the map itself from whenever I merged the two maps together. So I'm going ahead and getting as much of it blacked out here as possible first before I move on to the next map. So, after going ahead and doing that, I take the brush tool and I just fill in all the little tiny details that were missed, at least all the prominent ones. The ones that aren't as prominent, I'm not going to worry too much about because we will get that later on with the main watermark. Okay, so now I go ahead, I inverse the color, and I switch everything to grayscale. And I'm gonna throw it over into the color changer one more time, so we just change all of that rivers back to that black color that they need to be. And there we go. Now that everything is switched over, I'm going to move on to our main map. So, I go ahead, I take the map, throw it in, and now I'm just gonna get it adjusted to where it looks as close as possible to the other map. After that, I'm going to go ahead and get the colors changed. So after matching it up, I'm going in, changing all of the rivers and all of the lakes, just like I did with the other map, to pitch black. And I'm going to use a mixture of the brush tool here, as well as the color picker that I use a lot on onlinepngtools.com. As always, I will have links in the description for any of those tools. Okay. After going ahead messing around, I go ahead, save it, and I move on to the next step, which is going ahead and changing the opacity so they easily blend into one another, to where you get the very distinct water features as well as the actual map itself. There we go. Now, the big issue here is I need to also make sure that everything is nice and clear. So, first I need to go ahead and change it to the correct size format for Dwarf Fortress, which it's going to compress it a bit, but that's sadly unavoidable when it comes to maps like this. So after getting it in, I just mess around with the settings a bit to get the water and the mountains to show up correctly. And after doing so, I'm going to fix the left side of the map, because as you can see, it was too light, so it's showing up as a mountain when in reality there isn't any mountain in that region of the state. So after going ahead and fixing that up, I will be able to move on to the rainfall map. Okay, after going around, I fill in some of those smaller oceans, and I move on to the rainfall and wind direction. As always, I went over, pulled up that wind direction map, and I got to work. There isn't a lot of desert in the state, so I'm making sure that there's not a lot shown, and I go ahead, throw in a noise filter to fix it. Then I move on to the temperature map. This state is a little farther north, so it is a lot colder. So I'm going ahead and showing that with the northern part being in that cooler biome. Finally, I move on to drainage and volcanism. Drainage, not a lot of swamps, more forests, so everything is pretty self-explanatory there. And then I moved on to the volcanism, where I went ahead and made everything fairly low to the ground. And after messing around with savagery, just giving the north the most savage area, we have a working map. So I go ahead, bring it over, save it, and it's time to import it into the game. So I just throw it into our world gen file, name it MN for obvious reasons, and I'm now going into Dwarf Fortress. So I go ahead, change a few settings so it'll be easier to share later on, and I'm going to struggle for the next minute or two trying to get the actual map to load in properly. The issue is I'm just like the last map, it is having an issue putting in the proper amount of mountain ranges, but we are able to get it working without too much of an issue after we set it low enough. Okay, and finally, we have it working. So, I go ahead, pull it up, and here we go. Here's our finished product. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you with the next one.